In Snow White, how many dwarves are there? 7. How many episodes of Daily Nourishment are there? 7. What has my mood been like in every episode, and your mood been in every episode? I'd argue one of the 7 dwarves. The topic for today is going to be talking about beverages and their importance in the role of food and why you should take some time to learn about them, and maybe why I should make a video about them. So I think one quote that I don't even know if this is a real quote, but it's something I always say. It's the food that gets the customers in the door, but it's the drinks that keep the lights on. And I think this is something that if you are higher up in restaurants, if you manage a restaurant, if you own a restaurant, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But to everybody who doesn't do any of those positions, let me bring you in on it. In the restaurant industry, which is already known for having extremely tight margins, it's the drinks where the money is really made. Let's say you have a plate of pasta and you sell this plate of pasta for $20. Pretty expensive. That plate of pasta is probably going to cost you $7 in ingredients. Your labor is going to be probably $5 for it, right? The total amount of money you're making on this dish is not that much money. You're maybe making $5 on the dish, right? 25% margin, probably less actually, after you include other factors. However, a drink, you can sell a glass of wine, which one bottle will hold 4 glasses of wine. If you're selling it by the glass, you could sell a nice wine that you maybe bought for $35 to $40. You can sell that by the glass for 21. And because you're getting those 4 glasses, that's $84 worth of product right there. So we already have your cost there. Your cost is maybe a quarter. And if the labor cost is the same as with the food, then you're making a lot more profit on items like that. And this doesn't only extend to wine. Things like beer, things like different spirits, cocktails, especially cocktails, because that's something that can be unique to your place and also can drive people to it, just like the food. A unique cocktail menu can bring in as many people and keep the lights on. It's almost like a 2-for-1. I think this is something that's really worth knowing, like worth knowing your beverages, because beverage programs in a lot of places are pretty boring. Like you'll see the same kind of list of wines, the same kind of what's it called? You'll see like Cabernet Sauvignon, and then you'll see like your Sauvignon Blancs, and you maybe see a couple of different other French reds. You don't see a whole lot of variety. You don't get to like fully really appreciate the wine. And that's because wine has more of become like an intimidating drink, especially in the US. In the US, alcohol is not accessible until you're 21, right? So a lot of people have it illegally. A lot of people are just getting whatever the cheapest alcohol they can get, which when it does happen to be wine, it's just kind of this boxed wine. So when you go to a restaurant and then you're going to be paying $10 or $15 for wine per glass. Are you really then going to go shell that out on something you don't know that you may not like? You're probably not, which is why you're going to stick to your Cabernet Sauvignon. You're going to stick to your Sauvignon Blanc. You're going to stick to these same wines. And it means that the wine education in North America is really not there. And I'm not sure about globally, but I would imagine they actually face similar problems as like this new generation, like millennial and Gen Z, have actually been like a lot less. Like they've consumed alcohol a lot less from wine than from other sources. Like something like a seltzer is really, really popular, and especially because like sparkling wine still comes off as a premium product, and it's not really affordable to a non-premium consuming audience. It just means that wine at a certain point is capped. So the question for you then as a future restaurant operator is, because a seltzer and a beer, they have way less margins than wine. The question is, how can you then, as a new business owner, how can you then make wine more approachable for the new generations? And I think I've got just a couple of ideas for how you can make it more approachable. I think the first one you could do is for that same $21 price, why don't you, instead of giving them a whole glass, you do 5 wines and it's a small flight, right? You maybe have a little theming around this. Maybe you have them go with separate courses, right? Maybe you have like one of them comes out, like when they're doing their ordering, you have one of them comes out before their appetizer, then one of them comes out with the appetizer, one in between the appetizer and the first course. Then when the main course comes, they can have it then. And then maybe one for dessert as well. You've now introduced them to a whole variety of wines, because a dessert wine is different than the wine you're having in the beginning. You're probably going to start off with a white, then move into a more full-bodied white, then I'm going to say like a red, right? You're going to go into a full-bodied red to accompany whatever they're eating for their main. I'm assuming here it's going to be more like a protein, like a chicken or a steak. If it's a fish, then you're gonna adjust. Then it's gonna probably be like a lighter red, then moving into a more medium-bodied white, and then at the end you're gonna have a dessert wine to pair with what they're having, or even just as like an aperitif kind of thing, but at the end of the meal. like a digestivo or whatever. So I think like knowing that makes wine way more approachable, because what are you paying? You're paying like $5 per little sip, right? So the whole idea is if you get a whole group of people, then maybe you make that more discounted. Maybe for like a group of four, that'll cost them $60 instead. And remember how little your wine is already costing you, the margins you're already getting, right? So by doing this instead, it means that you can get a whole group of people, right? They're all immersed together. Maybe if you really wanted to, instead of having like a trivia night, you have a wine education night where everyone's sitting at their tables. Maybe instead of full courses, they're getting small appetizers that go with their wine, because then you're educating them on pairing the wine with these little food bites, right? And then you get hire a sommelier, you pay him his rate, probably like $200 to $300. He'll go up, he'll explain all of the wines, he'll explain what you're tasting for. Maybe you print out some cards, right? And you make it a whole event. Make your place known for their beverages too, right? Beverages are such a crucial thing, and don't be afraid to change things up. When I've looked at a lot of great places that have great beverage offerings, it's not just because they have wines and they have beers, it's because they are not afraid to mix in unique things. Like, for example, at Alchemist, they have a juice that they make where it's mixed with, like, it's a lemon kombucha, I think, mixed with gooseberries. Like, that's a super unique thing, and you're paying like $600 for this meal. But that drink is so fitting in what they're doing. Or like at 11 Madison Park, where they have a tisane, which is just like a tea without the tea plant. So it's just like a mix of like fruits and, dried leaves and other stuff, right? You have that mix, and they're able to customize it for each guest. That's a super unique drinking experience that you're not going to get anywhere else. Or even throwing in something like a coffee. Why not have one of your early courses? Why not have like an appetizer, but it's paired with like a sweet espresso, like a cafe bonbon or something like that? That would be super unique. No one does any of this. You know why? Because that's not something that makes as much money. And because if they're already paying for this wine pairing, they're not going to want that instead of the wine they're getting. But it doesn't have to be like that. You can have just a drink course on its own as an addition to it. Why not just have an espresso to break the flow up of the whole dinner, right? I think this is a topic that can be explored as to looking at, which kind of drinks pair better with which kind of meals. How can you make your meal more unique? And how can you, as a restaurant operator or future restaurant operator, how can you still be able to make money, like, while using these drinks to boost your sales and to boost the experience of the customer? That's been episode 7. Please leave your feedback in the comments below, and I'll see you tomorrow for episode 8. Make it great.